Hi everybody, I'm Stephen Bowers. I've had some questions about the tropical disturbance, we'll call it, down in the southeastern part of the United States that could show some signs of development down on the northern Gulf Coast. So that's what I want to talk about on our Monday evening. It's close to 9 o'clock on our Monday evening, as a matter of fact, and this is what we're talking about. This tropical disturbance is trying to get its act together. There is some indication of some weak rotation, very broad and weak rotation, that's actually onshore, while the heavier rain is way down here offshore. So whatever's happening right now is incredibly disorganized, and it's going to have some difficulty getting its act together as long as it stays over land. And it does appear that that is a very real possibility. Of course, if it stays over land, this is pretty much a non-issue, although it is going to bring some rain to parts of Florida, Alabama, perhaps Georgia, Mississippi, and Louisiana. But let's show you these track forecasts, and I show you this because there is some indication that maybe there is a little bit more movement offshore. But I'll tell you, this is already focused on these northernmost models. So if this continues on these northern tracks here, this is not likely to be an issue, as it's not organizing and not going to organize as long as it stays over land. If it can show some signs of shifting, or perhaps if that center can reform just offshore, then we have a little bit of a different animal to discuss here, because that's when we could get a tropical depression or even a tropical storm. At this point, it does not look like it's going to be over the water long enough to become a major hurricane, and even a minimal hurricane doesn't seem overly likely. These are track forecasts through midnight Wednesday night going into Thursday morning, and you do see some variation as far as exactly where it is, but it generally takes it toward the west into the Panhandle or just offshore of the coast of South Alabama by midnight Wednesday night going into Thursday morning. This will continue tracking off toward the west and into Louisiana on Thursday, and at this point, it's well inland. This is Thursday night going into Friday morning at midnight, and then it gradually works its way very slowly inland, and it will likely weaken. I'm going to break out two of the models from the tracks that you see here, and the first is the big GFS model from the United States National Weather Service. And what this is showing us at 6 o'clock on Tuesday evening is a very broad rotation that is open. It's not closed up. So this is a low-pressure wave more than it's a low-pressure circulation. And as long as it's a wave, an open wave of low pressure, it is not a tropical depression or a tropical storm, and it's not likely to do any intensifying until we can close off that center of circulation. This tracks off toward the west through the night. There we are at 2 a.m. in the wee morning hours of Wednesday, and there is some indication that this circulation tries to close off, but you see that it's over land, very near the Florida Big Bend, just to the south here of Tallahassee. And it continues off toward the west, and while it's working its way to the west, it can certainly throw a lot of moisture inland. So this is a big rainmaker for parts of the Florida Panhandle, even if it doesn't organize into a tropical depression or a tropical storm. We still have an open low-pressure wave. You don't see that circulation closing off the Florida coast as it tracks off toward the west and continues westward throughout the day on Wednesday. There we are at midnight Thursday night. We have a lot of strong convergence. In other words, the wind is coming together very strongly in a little low-pressure trough that extends up from the Mississippi coast down through southeast Louisiana. But again, it's not closed off. Watch right in here, though. The GFS model does close it off between about midnight and 6 a.m., right as it tries to come ashore. Right there, you see a closed circulation beginning to form, and then it works its way inland. So maybe it has an off chance of becoming a tropical storm. More likely this is a tropical depression as it works its way inland. And then there's this strong onshore flow to consider over to the Florida Panhandle, the Alabama coast, the Mississippi Gulf Coast. That onshore flow grabs my attention because when you bring that strong wind inland over the coast like that, that can often lead to rough seas and rip currents and sometimes even some coastal flooding. That's especially true on the west end of Dauphin Island, and that happens a lot right there. And if you're from down there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Here we are at noon on Friday. It's still rainy, but as we go through Friday afternoon, the rain gets drawn up closer to that weakening circulation as it moves up the west side of the Mississippi River. So it's improving by the time we get to the weekend around Pensacola, Mobile, and even New Orleans and the Mississippi coast. Now I want to show you a second computer model. This is the European model. It shows that the circulation does try to close off a little bit. Already, though, as we get into our Tuesday evening here, so this is 6 p.m., We're at 9 p.m. already, and this 9 p.m. Mountain Time, so 10 p.m. and even 11 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Central, by the way, and it's already a little farther west than what we're seeing on this. So this is lagging behind a little bit, but it does try to drop it a little farther south and gives it a little bit more time to organize. This resolution from this particular model seems a little far-fetched to me because of how far north it already is. This is more likely to be hugging the coast up here and kind of have a very narrow window of opportunity to develop. It's not out of the question that this could happen, and that's why I'm showing it to you. This is kind of one of the other extremes of this situation, but even this extreme doesn't look all that intense. It's a little farther south, as I pointed out, here at midnight, Wednesday night going into Thursday morning, but there is a very weak and very broad circulation here, and again, the broadness of it tells me that this is probably just a weak low pressure area, not necessarily a tropical depression or a tropical storm. It does show some signs of intensifying, and we saw that from the GFS here a second ago too, and that's the point right there, Wednesday night into Thursday, where maybe this becomes a tropical depression or even a low-end tropical storm. Keep in mind, again, that strong onshore flow coming off the Gulf into the Florida Panhandle, southwest Alabama, and the Mississippi Gulf Coast. That onshore flow could mean rip currents and some rough seas, so just keep that in mind as well. I don't think this is a major storm. I really don't. Even as this starts to move inland, it's really a rainmaker more than anything, and the rain is probably the biggest deal. That onshore flow could be an issue as well. And I'm not sure why our computer model did that, but what I can tell you is that most of the rainfall amounts that we see down along the coast here are in the vicinity of 1 to 2 inches, but you kind of see an area where maybe there's a bit more of a bullseye that starts in the southeast corner of Mississippi, spreads across Alabama, and to the west end of the Florida Panhandle. So I'm going to zoom into that, and let's see if we keep our numbers there. Yeah, we do keep our numbers there. Look, even on the high end, this is 1 to 2 inches in most areas of rainfall, and then maybe a localized case where maybe 2 to 3 inches of rain can fall. And that can happen in some of these deeper yellows that we see kind of in between Cantonment and Milton and north of Pensacola here, and that's a 3-day rainfall total. So this gets us all the way through really the end of the week. So yes, there is something there. Is it a major storm? No, it's really just a rainmaker and maybe a rip current maker. The seas get a little bit rough. It's probably not the safest to be in the Gulf waters with that rip current threat being what it is as it opens up here over the next couple of days. So that's kind of the ballpark of what we're talking about right now. I'll keep an eye on this. If there's a reason to post another update, I'll do that. But for now, things look like they're pretty tame in the tropical Atlantic, the Gulf, and the Caribbean Sea.